Hey everybody, it's Chris, your financial coach here, and happy Sunday to you. Today's episode, we're going to talk all about solar, and we're going to talk about the new solar credit through the stimulus package bill, and then we're going to talk about some pitfalls to look out for when purchasing a solar system if you consider going that way. First, I'd like to say I am not an accountant, so anytime you're going to take advantage of any type of a tax, credit, rebate, anything to that nature, please consult a tax professional, either a CPA or a professional tax preparer. There are many different situations, and I don't know your situation, nor do I know all the ins and outs of every little thing, especially in different states. So please check into that. Secondly, later on in the series, we're going to talk about how you can install a solar system yourself. I'm currently installing my own solar system, but I am not a professional licensed electrician in the state of Texas. So any advice that I give to you is my own personal experience. I did do residential wiring in New York State many, many years ago, but you should also check with a professional licensed electrician if you're going to do any of this yourself. So let's get right into it. To start with, let's talk about the new stimulus package and the solar tax credit. The tax credit used to be 26%, and now it's been increased again to 30%. And instead of it ending next year, it's going to end in 10 years. And what does that mean? Is it a tax credit or a tax rebate? Well, it's a credit. And that credit goes towards any taxes you may have to pay into the federal government. So let's say you do a $30,000 system and you get the full 30% back. That means you have a $9,000 tax credit. Let's say you owe $2,000 to the IRS. Well, they would take that $2,000, they would apply it to the $9,000. That would lower your bill, and then, or what you owe, so you would owe zero to the government. Doesn't mean that you're going to get the rest back, because this is not a rebate, this is a credit. But these credits do roll over. So that $7,000 that you now have sitting there, next year you could take advantage of that $7,000, and you can take advantage of that for up to 3 years if I'm reading it right. But again, please check with your tax professional. But it's a really good bargain for everyone if you're going to go into solar, if you're thinking about it, if you're putting in batteries or thinking about putting in batteries. The credit also applies to EV vehicles, and we'll talk about that next Sunday. And there's also rebates, or not rebates, I'm sorry, but tax credits for heat pump systems, for improving the efficiency in your house, for new wiring. There's a lot there, and we'll cover those in subsequent videos. But just today, we're going to talk about solar. So let's get right into the nuts and bolts about solar. I'm a firm believer in solar panels and solar producing energy. This house that we now have will be the third house that I put solar on. And in my previous two houses, I had a zero, and I mean a zero energy bill. That in New York State, when I put it on there, not only did it cover all my electric for the entire year, I was overproducing, which is called net metering. I'll talk about that in a second. And I was getting a credit every month, especially during the summers, on my electric bill. Well, my electric and gas company were one company, so therefore I was making enough so that at the end of the year, I didn't owe them any money, and they didn't owe me any money. I had credits rolling over. In my previous house here in Texas that we sold about 2 years ago, that was a net zero. So for every dollar that for every kilowatt I was taking in, I was either producing or overproducing a kilowatt. So I had a zero electric bill. Now that house was all electric, no gas at all. So it was zero. And my new house that we're doing right now, and the system that I'm putting in myself, I am going to have it so that it's going to be a net zero effect at the end of the year. And then I'm also putting in a battery backup system to handle essential or critical loads. And we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. So basically, solar, if you price it the right way, and if you look at the amount of energy and you scope out your system big enough to handle all of your electric needs, it can be zero at the end of the year, so you don't owe anything. So let's talk about solar systems in general and what they are. Not the solar system you see up in the sky, but the solar that you put on your house. So basically what you have are solar panels, and those solar panels take the energy of the sun, convert them into a little bit of electricity, and when you put multiple panels together, all of those panels together produce a lot of electricity. There's two different types of system. There's a solar panel with what's called microinverters. So solar panels produce DC voltage. That DC voltage then gets put into these microinverters. Those microinverters convert it to AC voltage, and then you put a lot of them in line, and then that goes into your AC system, and that's how you push back into your system, your house, and take care of your household needs and or overproduce. Then the other type of system is where it's all DC, so all the panels together get combined and they go into one big inverter, and then that big inverter converts it to AC and then goes into your house. So what you want to try to do is, when you scope out your system, you want to do a 1-to-1. So for every kilowatt you're taking in, you're able to produce a kilowatt to meet those needs, and then in lower peak hours you can overproduce, so that it's called net metering, and then you can push back energy back to the grid and sell energy back to the electrical company. Now there's a couple of things to remember too, is that number one is every single one of the electric companies out there charge you a fee to be connected to the pole. So even though you're net metering, or if you're taking in 100 kilowatts a day and you're producing 100 kilowatts a day, that means it's a net zero, right? There's nobody owes anything, but you're still paying a small portion to have that electric power there. Then there's at night and in the evening hours when you're drawing electric in from the grid because you're not producing enough to meet the needs in the house. And that's where batteries can come in smart systems. So when you have a battery backup, you can program it, and there's all types of different programs out there and all types of different battery backup systems out there. But you can program it, especially in areas like California and Arizona and some other states where the electricity is really high because of the high demand, and especially in the evening hours when the sun's going down, your panels aren't producing as much, and if you're drawing in from the grid, they consider that a peak time of day, and they're going to charge you more. Well, if you have a battery system in your house, and that battery system then kicks in and starts putting energy back into what you're using, that can help you lower your electrical cost. So what are some of the pitfalls? Well, the biggest pitfall out there is right now is a lot of these solar companies, and I mean a lot, are making over promises. So they're making promises that, like, this system will pay for everything, and it doesn't. And I learned, I didn't learn a lesson, but I think the solar company learned a lesson, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. The second pitfall is they overcharge. A $30,000 system, they're coming in and saying that it's $50,000 and $60,000, and they're really overcharging you for that solar system. And that's where we're going to talk about doing it yourself in just a few minutes. So the first scam that I wanted to talk to you about is they come in and they'll say to you, you know what, I'm going to put this solar system in, and it's going to take care of all your needs, so you're not going to have any electric bill. If they say that to you, make them put it in writing. Put it in the contract. And that's what I did in my last house. I put it in my contract that they had to either pay me the difference or install more solar panels on my house, because it was a brand new house, to cover my electric costs. Because they told me, quote unquote, my system that they were putting in would cost me zero in electric bills. Well, a year went by and I owed money to the electric company. Not only did the solar company write me a check, But 2 weeks later, they were there installing more solar panels, so they didn't have to keep writing me a check and didn't have to keep hearing from me. So it's important that you read the fine print and that you know what you're talking about with them and you make them put it in writing. The second thing is these lease systems where they're going to come in and they're going to say to you, hey, you're not going to have any electric bill. We're going to take care of everything. We're going to put it on there, but it's our system. And at the end of 25 years, it's yours. You pay it off. So it's like a lease. It's not worth it. There's way too many fees and everything. So if you're going to go solar, either take out that loan and trust me, I'm not here to tell you to do more consumer debt. We'll talk about that in a second. Not here to do that, but either take out that loan or save up for it and pay for it cash. Now, the second thing they're going to say to you too is they're going to say, well, you're going to get that $9,000 back. We're going to take that $30,000 system we just talked about, 30% of that equals $9,000. And they're going to say, well, you're going to get a check from the IRS at the end of the year that's going to cover that $9,000. And then what we're going to do is we're going to loan you the $30,000 at this interest rate. But within 1 year, you have to give us that $9,000 back, and then that'll keep your loan low. If not, your loan is going to inflate at that time and it's going to be higher. Again, if this is something you're thinking about, which I don't recommend, make sure you talk to a tax professional, a CPA or a professional tax preparer, so that you can know whether you're going to get that money back at the end of the year. Because if you don't get it back, then it jacks up the rates, your interest goes up, and it's a horrible nightmare. Let's talk a little bit about taking out a loan, that either that you're going to take out personally or the solar systems, the people that are going to install the solar system are going to provide for you. First off is look at your rate. Make sure you're getting a really good rate. Again, I hate taking on more debt, but if this system is going to pay for itself and give you a zero electric bill at the end of the year, then it's worth it, especially if you can make the payments equal what your power bill is. Right now, in the current home that we're at, our power bill this summer has been running about $200 a month. So if I were to take out a loan, I would look at a loan and a solar system so that at the end of the month, I don't have any type of bill from the utility company, and that also includes all the connection fees and the taxes. So make sure you look at all of that, because sometimes they'll say, okay, we're going to take care of your electric bill, but they don't take care of the connection fee every month. And I think our connection fee is up around $30 a month right now, and some of them are even higher. So they don't put that into their calculation, and then at the end of the month, you're paying $200 for this loan, but then you still have this $50 a month that's coming out of your budget for a connection fee. So make sure you take that into consideration. So now that we've covered both of those, let's cover doing it yourself. And you say to me, oh, Chris, I'm a little bit handy, but I'm not that handy. You can save a lot of money doing it yourself. I'm doing this system myself. I've done a lot of research on it. Like I said, I used to be a residential electrician and did electrical work back in New York. And here in Texas where I live, I don't have to be licensed. And because I'm doing it myself, I can do it. I'm going to have a licensed electrician come out and check everything. So you can do a lot of your work. I'm going to do a ground system, and I'm using a ground ballasted system. So there are these big plastic trays that I'm going to be filling with gravel, and then I'm going to mount the panels to them. I'm going to wire them all up, and I'm going to wire them into the house. I have an inverter. I'm using an inverter system that's going to be coupled with a battery system, so that as those solar panels are making energy, it's going to put it into the inverter, then it's going to charge the batteries, and then the excess, it's going to put it into the house, and then after that, it'll push it out to the grid. It's a very sophisticated system. But basically, I can do a lot of it myself. I'm going to be mounting a couple of pieces of Unistrut up on a wall and mounting this big inverter system. I'm going to bring the wires in from the panel, the wiring from the breaker box into my inverter system, the batteries, all of that. And there are a plethora of videos out there. I'm going to link a few of them in the descriptions below. So like Will Prowse is one that I've been following for a long time. There's Solar Surge. I follow their videos. I go to just a bunch of different solar places online. There's, like I said, a plethora of information. There's also a YouTube channel, and I can't remember their names, but I'm going to give them a link. Shout out in the link below, that they Electric U, I think it is Electric University, where they teach you electricity start to finish, so you can start taking classes with them online and learning about it. And but the basic point that I'm trying to get across to everybody is you can do a lot of this work yourself, then hire a licensed electrician and have them come in for an hour or two. You're paying them for an hour or two to first look at what you're going to do and say, yep, that's good or that's not good. And then secondly, do those final connections or look over everything and make sure you did it right before you flip on that switch. So it's really a good way to save money. I'm putting in a 10 kilowatt solar system with a 20 kilowatt hour battery backup. And those numbers, again, you can go out and look all this up and figure and learn all about this. But basically, my system is costing me about $12,000 out of pocket. Now, I did buy some used solar panels, and these solar panels were only used for a couple years. And solar panels, for the most part out there, the newer solar panels are good for 20 years, and they only lose about 1% per year. So if you get a brand new solar panel, it's at 100%, and 20 years from now, it's only going to lose approximately 20% of that. So it's still producing 80% of its original capacity. And then at that point, you could start swapping out cells slowly as you need to, or we're going to be getting older. We're not going to be doing a lot of things, and our consumption might be lower at that point. So that 80% might not be that much of a big deal to us. And a lot of people are saying that they're not seeing the degradation in some of these newer panels like they saw in the older ones that were put out 20 and 30 years ago. So if you're any type of a handyman, you can do this, but it's sweat equity. So doing a lot of the work yourself and then hiring some other people to help you out, like a licensed electrician, maybe a roofing company to help you get the panels up on the roof and make that penetration through the roof into the house. There are different things, but just check into some of the stuff that you could do yourself, and you could save literally thousands of dollars. My system, $12,000. Had I bought all new panels with my system, then it might have been closer to maybe $15,000, but the point is you could save a lot of money. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Please share my video. Please look down below and hit the subscribe button, and also hit that bell notification so every time I post a new video, you'll know about it. Please don't forget to check out the partners that I put, not really partners, but people that I really like, in the description below. Check them out. There's a wealth of information out there. I'll see you next Sunday when we talk all about EV vehicles.